Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the message. I know some of you want to know what has come about from the student with the false accusation, and I do have an update. He has withdrawn his complaint, but the university put him back in my class. When class was over, I confronted him and told him, listen, I cracked a mean joke, and for that I was going to apologize publicly, but they told me that you added something else to the complaint that I never said. And therefore, if I apologize publicly, then I would have to get one from you. And he said, what do you mean you never said it? You told me to go to the bathroom out the window. And I said, no. I mean, yeah, I told a joke about I will throw you through the window or shake you through the window. But I didn't tell you to go to the bathroom out the window. And he said, you know, I had a hard time thinking that that's really what you said, but that's what I heard. I heard you with my own 2 ears. I was sitting close to you. And then I said, how many people were talking in the classroom at that same time? And he said, a lot of students were talking. So I asked him, do you think that you possibly didn't hear clearly because of the sound interference? And he nodded his head and said, now I think that's what it is, because you don't talk like this. You don't say stuff like what I heard. You never talk like that to anybody. Tell someone to pull their stuff out and aim out the window and pee. You don't do that. Right? That's what it sounded like. And I said, okay. See, when I said I would throw you out that window, he thought I was saying go out the window as in go to the bathroom out the window. So it turned out he didn't lie. I thought he lied. Turned out he didn't lie. He couldn't hear because of the sound interference because his classmates were busy joking and clowning. The reason they were busy doing that was because they were taking advantage of an interruption that he and some of his classmates provided when they kept saying bathroom, bathroom. So we worked it out. He wound up apologizing to me because he just didn't know that that's not what I said. He couldn't hear clearly, so he had to surmise as best he possibly could what I must have said. And the only thing he could hear clearly was, oh, out the window. Syllable O and then out the window. He didn't hear me say, boy, I'll throw you out that window. Not for having to go to the bathroom, but for consistently interrupting. That's why. And I said to him, you know, at this point, now you got to explain to the administrators what really happened. And now you see why it is that I've asked y'all not to interrupt the lesson. To participate in it and practice, yeah, but not to interrupt the lesson when it has to do with English. Now you see why I kept telling y'all that. When you asked about that, and I said, okay, go, take 2 minutes, 3 others did the same thing right at the same time. And before you came back into the classroom, one student asked me about attendance. I answered his question, and then 3 of them came and surrounded my desk to talk about attendance, shoving their phones in my faces. Teaching you all English is hard work because of that. It's not because English is hard. And he understood. Now, I say that to say the reason I tell you about this is because what happened there is exactly what happens with our people in many cases in these ghetto situations where people get to bickering and arguing. Half the time, we don't hear each other clearly because everybody's trying to talk at once. We are poor communicators, and what I'm seeing is that on social media, Black men are becoming better communicators because we will say, well, look, let's go one at a time. Let's talk one at a time. Our sisters, so to speak, are refusing to do that, so we can't communicate with them. Yesterday, my girlfriend told me, and yes, it's okay to tell my wife about my girlfriend. They're the same woman. Anyway, she told me that she was having a rough time focusing and concentrating. And I told her, listen, sweetheart, I know a part of what's going on. One, I know you're not sleeping. I'm not going to get into why, but she's not sleeping well. She doesn't know that because she is sleeping, but it's not a good sleep. So she's not aware of what's ruining the quality of her sleep. She just wakes up still feeling tired and groggy. I've told her what it is. That's a different story. But I said to her, listen, I know what it is that would help you to sleep better, and I've told you to do it, and you don't do it. I've told you multiple things, and it's like I bore you, so you don't do what I say, so you don't try it. When I tell you something and you don't do it, then you're going to go through something like this because I'm supposed to be a good leader, but you're also supposed to listen when I'm leading you in the right direction. Now, you may not be the leader, but you know if I'm leading you wrong. First, you get a warning. Be aware, be alert, see where this goes. Your own morality would do this. And then later it would say, wait a minute, this is wrong. We can't go in this direction. Tell him something. Tell him that we must obey God. That's what would happen if I were leading you wrong. And it probably wouldn't start off that way because I don't do that intentionally. It would deteriorate that way because I wasn't careful and you would catch me before that point. But if you just don't listen at all and you always got an excuse, then what the hell you think's going to happen? Your conscience is going to bother you. You didn't listen. I have to pay attention to details you don't have to pay attention to so as to be a better leader. Try listening. And when I talk to you, you focus on what the hell I'm saying because I'm talking to you for your benefit. If I ask you a question, don't answer me with a question. My students do that. In other words, don't take on the communication styles and skills of the students because they're not that good at it. They're 19 years old, 18. You're teaching them for many hours out the day, and that's okay, but you don't mirror their communication styles. They need to mirror yours. And this is what a lot of us have been dealing with lately. Black manosphere has been a breakaway point. It has been the point where we start to look at the culture, this ucked up culture that is always upheld as if it's something great and grand. And we start saying, no, shuck this fit. We're not following inward. We're not following nigga culture. Nigga killer culture, in other words. We're not following this nigga culture anymore. We're done with that. And we're not going to let these hyenas uphold that stuff with the neck rolling and that's just the way it is. And we're done with that because you see, when you start really watching sisters and how they love to brag about being brutally honest, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling them, I'm just real blunt with it. You begin to notice something. They're real blunt and they're real brutally honest as long as it's not something that is commendatory to you, maybe even to each other, but damn sure to you. Even with their sons, they're brutally honest, so to speak, as long as it's always reinforcing to that boy the notion that he is there to be a workhorse for the women. That's what the hell the brutal honesty is for. And you'll notice it follows that path. What happens when that brutal honesty would mean being commendatory to a black man, complimentary to a black man? Because it would mean giving him credit for something that he has done. And so you see, in this growth that we're going through, we're learning that honesty has to be for honest reasons. Truth telling has to be for reasons of truth. We're beginning to realize that and see the importance of that. It must be this way. Otherwise, the honesty is not going to serve its purpose. We're seeing this. We're realizing this. We're looking this in the face. What has this led to? How many black men are still asleep and plugged in and still think that their job is subservience to the hyenocracy and that they're not even supposed to be that beneficial to the so-called pick-me's, that their job is to teach the pick-me's a lesson? I understand this is a rant and it seems like I'm going in different directions, but this ties in together. I've talked about the solution for our people. Multiple times I've made mention of it. One of the things that I've come to realize is that the Black manosphere has many times been a sort of gateway, a sort of introduction into this solution. What is the reason for that? Well, the reason is this. There are many ways that our people have come into this solution about which I speak many times. The NOI was one. What they did was they took certain chains off of your mind. Now, they left a particular chain, but they took many chains off your mind. I mean, you were now able to start thinking of the white man as something other than this great, big, benign ruler of the planet. You were able to look down on him, even though the so-called embodiment of God, the alleged embodiment of God, was half white. So at the root of its theology, there was still some white supremacy. But nonetheless, what I'm getting at is that the NOI was able to break many chains off. Now, the NOI may have 50,000 members. Most African Americans that call themselves any kind of Muslim at all are actually of the Sunnah. And most African American Muslims and African descendant Muslims anywhere don't look up to anybody else as if they're just better than us. We don't look up to Arabs like they're better than us. Believe it or not, I mean, that's not what many of y'all say or think, but we don't look at them like they're better than us. I teach them all day long. I know they're not better. They're nice in general, and they're very hospitable, especially with outsiders. They're more harsh with each other than they are with anybody else, to be honest. Does that sound kind of familiar? But no, I don't look at them like they're better than us or worse. They have less excuses than we do by their own admission. But the Black manosphere has wound up being a sort of gateway as well. Now, what does it have in common with the NOI? It's quite simple. See, it breaks chains, mental chains. The Black manosphere breaks the mental chains that have been placed on us by the hyenas themselves at the behest of white supremacy. It actually says, no, wait a minute, hold up. See, in order to be a black man, you must be a man. You're already black. Now you got to be a man. You can't be no nigger. You're going to have to de-niggerize. And that's exactly what this solution is designed to do for anybody that follows it. The Arabs were some real low-life niggers before this revelation came to them through one of their own. They were. They had paternity discrepancy issues and paternity fraud. They had poetry battles where if you could justify anything as long as you could put it to a hell of a rhyme and a rhythm. Does that sound familiar? I mean, we tend to say that the ancient Arabs were black. Now, it's debatable at the time of the prophecy. That's really debatable. It was probably in the transitional period at that point. But what I'm getting at here is that whatever shade they were at that particular point, they were lowlives. They needed a revelation. And it was not coming to build them up as Arabs and celebrate them being Arabs. That was not what the revelation was about. It was not that. What it was that they were pretty much being told, you got to stop being who you are cosmologically, religiously, spiritually. And morally, you got to stop being who you are. Change that. And then you can be redeemed. And you got to change that according to these instructions. And you can then be redeemed. And you'll find that it's easier than you think if you give it a try. It's that message. And now you got a lot of black men in the black manosphere that are coming through. And it seems not all the time, but I've seen quite a few that have come and seen it as a gateway into the solution. Because the red pill awareness is an awareness of something that ladies have chosen to make true. They had control. They could determine, okay, the red pill's true. This is how we're going to be. Really, the red pill awareness is just an awareness of something that, again, it's an awareness of a truth, but they had control over that truth. They could choose to behave from a multitude of ways. They picked. We saw what they chose. Greed, materialism, all of that. We saw that. Paternity fraud, paternity discrepancy, mostly paternity fraud, the dual mating strategy, flexing power and shunning accountability at the same time, in the same sentences, in the same interviews, sitting at a red table, telling one's husband that only she can say no, but by the same token, the affair is an entanglement. That embodies communication with our women to this day. And many Western people are saying the same thing, be they Asians raised in the West, white folk, Latin Americans raised in the West, or us. It's coming to be a problem. That's what Austin Holloman fled. He wasn't fleeing black women. He was fleeing Westernisha, period. Didn't matter she was Karen, Becky, U.S. born Maria. Didn't matter. Didn't matter what her mother's name was. And even Ali Wong sat up and said, my mother can never understand this because she came over in the 1940s, so she'll never understand why I want to get hosed down by Michael B. Jordan. A married woman talking this stuff. Mad because now that she makes more money, she has to lay down and sleep with a man that makes $40,000 a year and drives a Yaris. I heard they got a divorce. I don't know if that's true or not. Bastin niche. So we set up and realized that this was an awareness. And the red pill awareness was just the awareness of all of this. But it's not a religion. But it has led to that. And see, one of the things I've come to understand is that it is truly black men that are glad to be black that have taken a look at this and taken a look at truth for truth's sake. Andrew Tate is not one of them. Andrew Tate got it backwards. Sneeko is trying a little bit more than Tate to take things seriously, although he's not really, and by his own admission, he's not really that good at it yet. But Tate got it backwards. Tate was like, Islam is incorruptible. He said this before he became Muslim, it's incorruptible. And if you're going to fake the funk, then other Muslims are going to check you on this. And then what did he do? He accepted. And yes, I do think that that was why the Romanians swooped in on him. It was part of an investigation from 2014, I think it was, or 2016. So it had been going on for a long time. But why did they pick him up shortly after he said he accepted Islam? And I think he realized what the hell it is. And so what did he start doing? We're going to get in our supercars and we're going to go to the church and worship the Lord, Jesus Christ. He said that after being Muslim, we don't call prophets Lord. They never told us to. So he played around. He faked the funk. I didn't say much about Andrew Tate accepting Islam when he first accepted it because I did not want to treat him unfairly. But by the same token, I wanted to see if he was going to do exactly what Bilal of the Features and what Saad Imam in San Antonio said that he and anybody else who accepts Islam needs to do. Fuck the shuck up, turn the cameras off, go study somewhere, go learn something from someone that is trustworthy. And won't tell you not only the wrong things, but won't tell you the right things just for the wrong reasons to go do that. And I knew he was going to have a rough time finding somebody like that because while these guys exist, they're not famous. The teachers who can teach you the right thing and for the right reason, they exist, but they ain't famous. And quite a few of them have been locked up in different parts of the planet, different countries. So who are you going to get? Well, look. He kept the cameras on. He kept talking. And then he went straight to where the devil would want him to go. I'm your Lord, worship me. That's something Pharaoh said in the Quran. And at least Pharaoh was a Pharaoh. He didn't have to go to the restroom that often. His health was excellent back then. And he was the leader of a country and a superpower nation at that. And then there's Andrew Tate, who has a webcam business and who's pretty good in certain types of business. But they always have to cater to some low vibration in people, a weakness in people, in order for him to make money. That's not his fault. That's the market's fault. But he can't break out of that. And he says, he's your Lord, worship him, after he done said that there is no Lord but Allah. That's why I didn't say much. I knew where this could have gone. And now here he is trying to follow with these white nationalists, but he's black, genetically at least, on his dad's side. And he's even sat up and said, I heard the audio clip. I heard an audio clip of him sitting up and saying to some of the white nationalists that the reason why he wasn't really surprised at what the women were doing was because you already know that women are not loyal to anything. You have to have something patriarchal that makes them loyal to a religion or a race or a nation. So yeah, women are going to go where they're swooped up. They're going to go where they want to go. And so some N-word with a hard R comes along and got his mom and he's here. What do you want him to do? He sat up and said, so some N-word, he said nigger with a hard R at the end. He said, some nigger comes along and gets my mom and swoops her up, and now I'm here. What do you want me to do about it? Like he was apologizing to them. Okay, yeah, I got a black dad, but I'm with you guys. What do you want me to do? Erase my DNA? That's what they want you to do, Andrew Tate. The man is a racist, an anti-black racist, whether he realizes it or not, whether he would call himself one or not. And Sneeko checked him on it, and then he sat up and said to Sneeko, all he pretty much said is, nanny, boo, boo. He pretty much said that. He said, there's a reason I quit talking to you a long time ago. Sneeko was being nice about this stuff. All he could say in a nutshell was that now he said Muslims will check each other when they fall off. And then he fell way the uck off with some white supremacist stuff. Sneeko called him on. Sneeko, who's no shining example of Islam. Ask me how I know, because I'm not one. Set up and checked him about this and was rightfully so, and he couldn't tolerate it. This is about manhood, and manhood is about honesty. When we engage in deception, it's usually because of, it's a tactic of war. War is deception. And there are times, it is sad, but there are times when you have to utilize deception to help parties reconcile when the fight itself is over some BS. Sometimes you have to lie to your wives just to get them to do the right thing. Like, you may have to lie to them. I've had to do this. I've had to lie to my wife about what time my bus is going to leave so that I'm there on time. I've had to do that. My dad has had to do that with my mom. He's had to be like, look, the flight's going to leave at 12. You know how flights have these 12:32, 12:33. He'll be like, flight leaves at 12. And then when it's 11:50 and it's still on the highway, she's tapping her feet all nervous because she was the one late. My dad's cool. She's like, why are you so calm and collected? And he'll say something like, I saw that it's been delayed until about 12:15. Stuff like that. That's what he has to do because she ain't quick. There's nothing quick about how she gets ready. Nothing at all. I see why there are some husbands they'll leave their wives at home to go and be somewhere on time for once. That's what the wuck it is because that's how these women insist upon it. So yeah, you got to deceive them at times, just into being somewhere at a decent time. I want to make a grand entrance. Every woman wants to make a grand entrance. Who's going to be there? At what point do the married men get to show up at a decent hour? So I got to admit, the black manosphere is becoming a vehicle to a greater and older solution. But I think that one of the things that's happened is that a lot of guys will come into this because this is a patriarchal faith and society that's true. But it is not about just trampling women and pushing them down. It's mainly about them not taking control of the wheel. But it's not about just pushing them down. It's not really that either. They get a choice. They can decide to act like responsible adults or irresponsible kids. They can do that. And I've looked at how many of them will behave like, in the West, they'll behave like children because they're allowed to when they still get to reproduce. And I've looked at how over here they could be mature, but the very chasing down of goals and education could delay their marriage until they don't have anybody. It could wind up doing that to them. Yeah. They don't have to, they still got to be mature. But if they simply do that so much, it'll delay it. If they tell dad, I want to finish this and finish that, dad won't look for a husband for her. And then she gets old and he's like, ain't nobody out there. When I die, you got to figure it out on your own. But I started off talking about how miscommunication is a major problem with different groups of people, and it leads to discords and other issues. That was what I started off talking about. And one of the things I wanted to tell you all about to tie into this is that we are told to speak a straightforward word. And what I'm saying is that the Black manosphere is now beginning to call upon each other and to call upon these sisters, these hyenas, to speak a straightforward word. To pretty much say, listen, go ahead and say what it is that you're looking for. Don't hide stuff. What do you want? Tell the truth. What is it that you look for? What do you seek? And that is powerful in and of itself, because that simple request right then and there, that right there is causing a lot of these women to show how bad they are with communication and how impossible it is to teach them any mother cuss word thing. And you cannot pursue women like that. And as a matter of fact, you can't accept them if they pursue you and you find this out about them. Let them pursue you and you find out they're terrible communicators. They tone you out when you're talking to them. Answer questions with questions. See, some of these things, they play communicative tricks on us to deceive us into thinking a normal, and we just have to deal with it and accept it because it's normal. And you don't. I'll give you an example. Some of these things, for instance, like the way that they answer a question with a question, speak in a non-committal manner, start, always try to be evasive, left, right, all that stuff when you're talking with them. And you're just trying to make a very simple point to get something done in an efficient way, but they want to do it as inefficiently as possible. When you start getting to that, interrupting you, crying because you don't let them interrupt you, things like that, all the tactics they use, you think that it comes with them being women. What I'm telling you is that that's not the case. That comes with them being kids. It is something that they're supposed to outgrow. Adults in general are supposed to outgrow it. You and I have been systemically, collectively deceived into thinking that they don't grow up. We think they're children because they pretended to be children so that we would think that that's what it actually is. That was a damn lie. They're simply refusing to become adult level communicators so that we recalibrate to think that they can't. That's all that it is. No, they can. Edward Allen Anderson has said that if it's going to continue the way that it is, he doesn't care if there is not going to be a Black community. He'd like for there to be one, a Black population and all that. But if it's got to be a patriarchy, then let the race die out. He has said that. And I would say this for any community of human beings. Because one thing I do understand is that in most species, lizard, mammalian, amphibian, there is a clear difference in both genders between the children and the adults. Across the board, the female wolf does not become stupid and a mental dead weight and insist on being one. They don't all get together and say, listen, we're going to sit up here and be a bunch of idiots and dummies, and we're going to just be a bunch of crazy kids that get our packs into trouble so that the men are weighed down and they never expect us to grow up, even though we could if we really had to. They don't sit up and do that. They don't act like they don't know stuff that they actually do know, just so that they don't need to grow up. It would harm the pack. I'm just using wolves as one example. You don't see lady gorillas doing that. You don't see that type of thing. Even if they do engage in paternity fraud and the dual mating strategy, even if they did that, they don't pretend to be kids and pretend to be dumb. And then when you tell them, no, you stupid, you a kid. I know I've been having to raise you all over again, like Monique said her husband did. And then they start crying. You can't call me stupid. You're a sexist, misogynist pig. No. We've been misled. And one of the reasons why it is that I've known this for a while is because of the solution on what I've been sitting before I even knew about the red pill. God did not create them incapable of becoming adult women. Even if the men are supposed to lead, even if that's the case, he did not create them incapable of becoming adult women. Stop sexually and romantically rewarding psychological children. Stop it. That includes the IG models. Stop it. Next time a chick posts a booty pic and you scrolling down some social media platform and there it is, you see it, even if it looks good, don't say nothing. Unless you're going to correct it and say, you might look good, but put some clothes on. Everybody don't need to see that. No, you're not ugly. I'm not saying you're ugly, but this is private, not public. If you're going to say anything at all. Matter of fact, don't even do that. That's not going to sink into them. No, just keep on going. They're a kid looking for attention and they get it. Stop it. I hope that what I said helps. Make them start communicating and behaving like adults if they want to get with you. Because the more that some of us will sit up here and validate their childish behaviors like it's just cute, the more that happens, trust me, the more that happens, the worse options our sons are going to have. And the worse behavior our daughters will have because they don't need anything better. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power, just because they don't like it on black patriarchy till extinction or judgment day. And special shout out, thank you to S Jacques for coming through in the Cash App again from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.